doesn't need to be a specific theme though. The whole point is to, I think it was what you said a few days ago when we spoke about how different people take different approaches to practice, and then how some people's approach involves forsaking clarity. And if you're sort of craving for clarity of understanding, they would say they're just craving, and by doing so dismiss your efforts towards that same clarity. Yeah, nobody denies that it is a craving, it's a form of craving, but as the Buddha said, craving is to be abandoned by the needs of craving. So if you have craving for clarity that will result in clarity, understanding of the experience as a whole, then that craving has cancelled itself, and that's a successful practice. There is absolutely no other method. Well, there is no method that you could prescribe that can then result automatically in clarity. The only way to arrive at it is to keep investigating and digging out for the meaning. That's what the suttas mean when they talk about delve with a knife, and like just keep digging, keep cutting until you reach the clarity of understanding of certain universal truths. So that's why we spoke about the idea of, well, how it was in the suttas, when somebody declares, even if they don't necessarily declare the knowledge, if they have a level of understanding of Dhamma, if they meet with the monks, they'll be interrogating each other. Not for the sake of argument or for the sake of, oh, I know more than you do. It was really just to test their own understanding and see if there is anything that they haven't considered, because of which they're maybe not getting the full picture. There is no understanding that needs to be developed. So the interrogation basically is done for the sake of clarity. Testing your own clarity, testing clarity of others, increasing your own clarity. Even for example, even in case of Arya Savakas, who already don't need anyone for their own clarity, if they end up talking Dhamma to others, it makes them think about the Dhamma, which means makes them develop those principles more and more and more. So it's a win-win, really. But the reason why you won't see that done today is because, well, it requires some degree of understanding to start with. Otherwise, you just put to just bouncing ideas off each other, and that cannot possibly result in the knowledge.
It's kind of ironic in that people, I think, before they go to monasteries, they think that monasteries can be a place where people do investigate, where they have discussions together, and they go to the monastery and then they sort of spend a bit of time, then they go, so when do you have these meetings, when you discuss things?
Well, and then the meetings that are there are kind of sutta study groups, which is basically just a presentation of information. And then we all chip in with our opinion or review on a certain topic. But it's really not like, okay, what does this mean? Because if we encounter a contradiction, well, that must be resolved. But often I remember, people say, oh, well, I read this sutta and it means like this, and then you would point out that there are other suttas that would contradict that understanding. Not for the sake of personally attacking somebody, but pointing out that cannot be the universal principle that you discern from the sutta, because if it were universal, it would be then understood on every level. But then people just go silent. Just move on to the next sutta. Okay, well, there is a disagreement. But no. If it's for the sake of your own clarity and your own understanding, you mustn't stop until there is at least sufficient level of that clarity at a time. Doesn't mean you won't find contradictions later on, but certainly if you're aware that they are, you must make the work to undo them. And that is literally the most direct way you can have towards gaining the right view and understanding. It's undoing your wrong views through self-questioning and looking for the meaning of the universal phenomena in your experience. So it crossed my mind to, we can be asking each other, action, nature of action. So obviously, the Buddha talks about it all the time, and it seems to be the convergence point for wholesome and unwholesome. And there are obviously many, many views associated with it. And people will inevitably have to start with the wrong views. But becoming aware of the wrong views as your starting point helps you then make the effort towards undoing it. You're not gonna, there's an assumption that you'll find the right view when you sort of go beyond your wrong views. So I'm affected with the wrong views, so I just need to keep looking for the right answers, and then I'll get the right view. Right view is basically undoing your views that are wrong. That's how you arrive at the right view. And there's absolutely, it's inconceivable that those wrong views would be undone on its own, without the effort of actually unscrewing them and making them fade away. That's the repetitive effort that the Buddha talks about, and the gradual shelving of the ocean and so on. You need to keep applying that pressure and effort towards your own wrong views, and that's how you'll undo them. That's why they are irreversible as well. Once you undo them, you can't reacquire them. But there's this common notion of, oh, I just do these observances, methods, techniques, practices, and then I'll have a magical experience of the right view. So, interrogation, action. Where is action constituted? Is it in, say you're about to do something physically, go for a walk, using your body for walking. Is that action in your physical movements, or is that action in the decision to walk, even before you start walking?
And when does the action begin?
Yeah, you can say that.
Yeah, the thing begins. You say a plant doesn't begin when it starts to grow outside the soil.
Mm.
It begins at its roots. You know, it begins there, and where it's rooted, that's where it grows from.
Mm.
So if you decide to walk outside, and then you start walking, that walking is secondary.
The walking is secondary to what?
To the decision.
To the decision to walk.
Yeah,
So
it's secondary in terms of it's more grown, proliferated.
So it sort of starts. Starts with. I mean, I sort of see it as like there's this possibility for going for a walk. There's this like. Even before a decision is made, there's this. That's a possibility.
So what does start with that possibility?
So
You say you see it starts with that. What starts with that?
not starts, but like so action is like there are these possibilities, and like that one possibility of going for a walk presents itself. But it may just be kind of bodily. You may not even actually.
But is that
think
an action?
explicitly.
Is that an action then?
I guess not, unless if you don't choose that possibility, then no. If you choose that possibility, but
because
also
that's what the question is. What's
action?
Where does the question? Where does the action start?
So choice.
So then there can be no action without choice to act. All of what you said is correct. Yeah, exactly. You couldn't choose to act in a certain manner if that's not given as a possibility. If you're a wheelchair bound, can't use your legs anymore. Possibility of walking has been permanently removed. But that's the important point. That's not where the action starts. And sometimes people, not necessarily differentiating that, ends up blaming possibilities and things that just arise in their mind on the level of possibilities, and they assume them to be the actions and try to get rid of it all. So yeah, there is no action to walk, or rather choice to walk is not the action. The actual walking would be action of walking that you maintain through the presence of choice to walk. So action without choice is inconceivable. That's why we say every action is intention. So intention to walk, the choice that you made, the intention that's present, hence you are walking while that choice is present. And that's another thing, how people will just jump into the assumption that the whole thing is linear. So you made a choice, and that choice has ended when you started walking. But that's absolutely not the case.
The intention remains there.
And gives the intelligibility to every single step you make. You wouldn't know what to do next if you have no knowledge of walking, no intention to walk. You would just set the foot forward and then, oh, what do I do now? But you already know that walking involves moving forward,
but
using your limbs.
But people would also tend to think that choice is a kind of explicit, now I'll do this.
Yeah, that's a topic in itself as well. Exactly. Yeah. Like
So
extra volitional or something like that.
Yeah. So if you if you don't, but then there are occasions when you realise that you're doing something, and I didn't actually explicitly, in awareness, go, I'll do this.
Well, then actually,
so therefore I must have just missed it. It must have been there, but I must have just missed this.
That's exactly the kind of natural point that you would arrive at would be, where does awareness of the choice come in then?
Yeah.
Which is why that whole wakefulness. But see, what you said now, it's where people start with in terms of their view. They think, okay, so only when I'm super extra mindful that I made a choice, that's a mindful choice.
Yeah.
Everything below that threshold of super extra mindfulness doesn't constitute a choice. So I just must always remain equally mindful to this overloading extent of I'm moving, I'm touching, I want to drink, I'm drinking, I'm sitting.
And if I
If
find
I
myself
slip,
doing something I didn't actually
means
remember,
I lost my mindfulness.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I've done something
That's
wrong.
right.
Oh no.
Exactly. And that's unsustainable. That kind of practice, which is incidentally kind of the contemporary take on mindfulness.
So therefore, basically, we are constantly making choices without actually being aware at the time of doing it. Like there are sub.
Yeah. So that's the point that I was going to make. It's the key to practice mindfulness. It's not to tailor your choices to your assumed degree of mindfulness. It's to refine your mindfulness to actually discern the choices that are already there being made. So it's completely the opposite direction. But that takes much more work. Refining your discernment of the choices that are there enduring because you're doing all these actions, as opposed to just sweep all that away, and now only what counts is what I decision, full on mindful presence of my every moment, what I decide, what I intend. And then you always have to lapse from that kind of state. But instead of trying to fit your choices into your mindfulness, you refine your mindfulness to start seeing all these choices that are there on their own. And that's how you also get to uproot them as well. And that's why and the confusion is basically because it's hard to understand that if you're unaware of a choice, doesn't mean it was unintentional. It means simply your mind is so far removed from self-awareness.
Yeah.
So that's why then people say, okay, so I must make only intentional choices that count. But you start like that, but you actually want to refine your mindfulness then further and further to see other, slightly less intentional, but still on the level of on the threshold of intention, choices that you're making. So how would you then, for example, practice mindfulness practically? How would you be mindful of a bodily act that you're about to do, that you decided on doing? Again, no right or wrong answer. Describe how you understand it.
Oh, I understand.
Basically, whatever understanding a person has, even if they don't have the fundamental understanding, it's a form of understanding for them. So the practice then is to refine that understanding, get freed from contradictions or mistakes, and then take it further in that direction. Not like, that's wrong, here is the right answer. So from that point of view, there's no wrong answer, really. It's just accurate and less accurate. So you want to go about, during the day, practice mindfulness. How would you do it? Like I come and ask you, how can I be mindful throughout the day? How would you advise me? What can I do?
Paying attention to the things that are already sort of happening, or
Such as, what do you mean? I don't understand that.
like right now I'm sitting, and I don't like you said, like I don't know how to always keep thinking I'm sitting, but I do intend to sit in this position, in this place, sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a degree of awareness even if I'm not fully attending to that I'm sitting.
So how is that then? What do you mean by paying attention to that? What you? Because you said paying attention to that. What?
It's more like reminding yourself
Of?
that already, like whatever degree of awareness is.
Of what?
Things that are already there, whether it's your bodily posture or
So how often do I have to remind myself that in order to maintain mindfulness?
it depends how often you sort of drift away from it.
So every time one would drift away, as soon as they remember, they need to remind themselves.
I suppose if you can just like think of it as like I'm drifting away, that you already know that you're drifting away, sort of a thing.
Yeah, sure.
So
Yeah.
you already.
So act of reminding yourself, what would that entail? Say you remember that you forgot.
Okay.
Where would now that act of reminding, where do I aim it? What do I remind myself of?
What am I doing right now? What am I thinking right now?
So of the present actions, whatever those might be.
Yeah.
So can you say then that, can there be mindfulness without actions?
Can't really think of anything other. Yeah.
No, you can't really. On a practical level, you can't. Or more accurately, there can be no mindfulness without intentional basis. So even if you're restraining a physical action, there is an intentional basis to act. So that's why everything would come down then to discerning whether it's rooted in wholesome or unwholesome, those intentions. If it's unwholesome, you don't allow the act to take place by body, speech or mind. That's all the Satipatthana, he knows his mind as affected with lust. He knows mind affected with aversion as affected with aversion. Like, oh, and he then goes and starts running and tries to get rid of it. No, he just needs to not act out of it. And that's already the experience of mindfulness. So, yeah, as a rule of thumb, try and remind yourself. But not of some kind of, oh, be here now in the present moment. But remind yourself of what is your present situation that you forgot about, which then means you can start reminding yourself of the fact that you just forgot. So when you remember that you lapsed, that's what you remind yourself of. Ah, there is the experience of forgetting right now, because I forgot. So you stop focusing then so much on the content of what you forgot. Oh, I forgot that I'm sitting. You're still seated. And you clearly haven't forgotten completely, because otherwise you would have stood up. But that intention is still there, because the body is still doing it.
So could you say, if you say lose the context of your situation, you stop being mindful, you forget what you're doing, you just look at you can ask yourself, what are the roots of what I'm doing? What are the roots?
What are the intentions that are present?
That's what is my attention rooted in? What are the intentions of my attention?
Well, that's another thing, isn't it? Because if you are careless in regard to your intentions, you'll be intending upon intentions. and you'll be doing 6 different things at once. Now that doesn't matter that you can't handle doing 6 different things at once, but they must be then unified with one general intention. So sometimes you can actually, if you don't have clarity of your intentions, you can re-clarify them by seeing what you're doing. Seeing what is the general context of all these different things that I'm doing. And then allow that to maintain in your mind as a thought that endures on its own.
So why am I sitting here right now? Why am I sitting?
Yeah, why am I sitting right here?
So actions are always sort of hierarchical.
They are.
You can sort of focus on a particular, I don't know, I'm lifting the cup, I'm pouring or you go, and I'm just making coffee.
Exactly.
But you don't need to worry about
every particular little movement
thing,
of
it's all
making
contained
coffee.
in the more general.
But that is also why people who just start their practice, who don't necessarily know, and who would be focusing on every moment, that's where they do get some sort of release through that. Like, it does feel like you're mindful, certainly more mindful than usual. Because if you're aware of the action you're doing, the intention that is simultaneously present there is implicit. But see, the problem is if you don't know that you are supposed to be looking beyond the action you're doing and discern the present intention in your mind, then you'll just become a mechanical robot who tries to sort of touching, moving, pouring, lifting.
You leave yourself
Because you refuse to look what's underneath, because you think I must just look at the surface of these acts. But that's why initially there is a degree of like, oh yeah, this feels like it works, because you are in a generic way, you are implying the awareness of your intention to do this. But then things will get complex, things will get faster, harder to control, and your mindfulness is gone with it. But that would not happen if you remain mindful of the intention to make coffee. Doesn't matter how quickly, how slowly you do it, you are making coffee, and until that's fulfilled, all of your actions will be around that.
So again, you're being mindful of your intention, you're being mindful of the context of your actions, of all particular actions.
What did you call it before? The root, or the
root,
the root of your...
The root of the particular things that you're doing.
Yeah.
It's all
even the root of your own,
the
root of your own attention, attending to the cup, attending to the coffee. It's all rooted in intention to fulfill this goal of making a cup of coffee.
I want a cup of coffee.
Singleness of that context, singleness of that purpose, not singleness of every aspect of your act.
Yeah.
It's like when people go on meditation retreats and do some kind of, they'll be very careful about, I don't know, sensations in the nostrils or something. And I was thinking, I think for a lot of people, mindfulness is about like going on a retreat and sitting in a room together and focusing your attention on your nostrils or your breathing or something, and people get so absorbed in that, but they completely forget the fact that they have chosen to go on this retreat for whatever reason, and everything that they're doing is determined by that more general
And would you
intention.
be able to do any of those things
Without that more general intention?
Well, no. Would you be able to do any of those things without implicit belief that somehow doing those things will fulfill your goal and purpose, or freedom from suffering, or whatever?
Or hope, or just some kind of wishful thinking.
Through a particular act of attending to my breath, the roots of my act, which might be unwholesome, based on greed, hate and delusion, which through attending my breath, that general intention where everything is rooted will change.
Will be purified.
Won't be what it is. So it's here my act is rooted in this mess, and it's big and it's massive, and then I just attend to something in that mess, and somehow the mess is going to disappear.
Exactly.
It's completely upside down.
And even if a person does not necessarily explicitly think this, the fact is that you start with like, I don't know, what am I supposed to do? And then you choose to do this out of that lack of knowledge. You already, you manufacture the belief that what you're about to do might possibly result in uprooting basically the roots of your actions in the first place.
Yeah, like that what you just said now. Is it uprooting, or am I just putting on top?
Piling up.
Piling up.
That's
well,
all.
it's not even, but not even. You're not even addressing that more general.
No.
Yeah,
And
then,
no amount
you're
of
not
no
looking
amount
at
of
it,
practice points
Yeah,
you
that's it.
towards
Yeah.
addressing it either. That's the thing. The practice that you would be learning in the retreat center would be you do this, you do this, you do this, you do. There's absolutely no point at any wait, you stop and look at the intentions of your actions. So you jumped into it out of a belief, which then automatically, simultaneously fabricated that implication that this might work and help me. And now everything is based on that magical connection of doing random acts and believing that enlightenment will happen to you.
So mindfulness of action is going to somehow needs to involve a recognition of this distinction between general and particular. And
Well, how would you do that on a more practical level for yourself, for example?
so you can recognize just asking yourself, why am I doing this? So there's these particular things that I'm doing, but you can just question but why am I doing this? What's more like you said before, you're sitting down, but why am I here? Why am I sitting here? Why am I in this?
And exactly, you can
Why
see
am I
that
living in Sri
simply
Lanka?
through questioning like that, you would also then be looking at the developing knowledge in regard to your own actions. Why am I doing this? So you can sometimes say, why am I doing this? Oh, well, because such and such thing happened to myself. Yeah, but why did I choose that those things be the reason for my action right here, right now? It always comes back on you.
But if my the weight of my attention is placed on the roots of my act, not that you forget about your act, but this might be wrong, but the weight of my attention is not solely placed on my act, but on the roots, then it makes sure that the acts that I do, the more particular acts that I do, are always in line with that intention.
So how do you
contained
Yeah.
in? Yeah.
So I don't have to worry about what
Yeah.
act I'm doing, because it's been driven by this intention that I have, which I'm maintaining by.
So how do you place the weight of your attention onto the root of the attention? How do you do that?
How do I?
How can one do that?
Well, if I said at the end, I said no. I think it's the same question. How can I maintain awareness of my intention, so that all my actions are driven by that?
At the root, you mean? Like,
Yeah.
So how can you maintain that
Awareness
recognition
of
the motivation of all these particular?
Is that the same
Yeah,
question?
yeah. So how do you do it? That's what I'm asking.
You've got to learn how to know what the context is of your action. So how to do that.
So can you give an example of a context in regard to the action? So that somebody who's listening to it for the first time would know, like, oh, okay, that's where I go to look for this. What would be the practical situation?
Well, I don't know, give an example of what's happening right now.
Yeah, okay, go ahead. Describe it on the basis of an example.
So if my intention, why am I sitting here? My intention is to uncover my wrong understandings. So why am I doing that? Because I want freedom from suffering. Can I ask further? What's the next question? What's my intention to be free from suffering? To be unbothered.
Which is what is bothering? Oh, it's suffering. So you want to be free from suffering because you don't want to suffer. So that's how you know how you can't ask any further.
Yeah.
The question closes upon itself. So if you are then...
If that's the context of my actions,
Mm-hmm.
the reason why I'm a monk, the reason why I'm sitting here, the reason why I'm eating, staying alive, breathing, and so on.
It's because you don't like suffering.
Well, I'm trying to, I don't want to suffer.
Yeah.
I don't like suffering.
Or the suffering bothers you.
Well, that's a topic in itself, but before we go into that, so how do you then do it? Back onto what you said.
Well, I have to...
Without ceasing to do what you're doing?
I have to remember that. But
Which
you're
one?
asking how to remember.
Yeah, no, I'm asking what to remember in order to maintain the mindfulness of a particular actions. Because you were talking about shifting the weight onto the root of your attention, which means that which you're attending, you want to shift some weight from it onto where, and I'm asking how. Not necessarily why, which is because you want to be free from suffering.
Mm. Well,
how do you go about it?
Well, automatically I want to talk about, yoni so manisikara.
Yeah, because this is what it is, exactly. Yeah.
But I'm trying to not...
I just feel like, if, again, same what I asked Arunlu, if I want to learn, how would you tell me practically, how can I do that?
Yeah. Well, what is the theme of my actions? How am I aware of the theme? Well, the theme is in the background, or the meaning of it's the meaning, how to see the theme.
So, what you're basically saying is, if you don't forget the motive behind your own present enduring action, you are dividing the weight, or shifting some weight back at the origin of what you're attending in front of you.
Isn't it just the process of asking yourself, why am I doing this?
You would start with that, yeah. So why am I doing this?
Just that asking that question.
A recognition of why you're doing it and what you're doing right now. So like I'm sitting here and talking, or like I'm going for a walk. Again, everything will be funneled into the most general purpose. I'm a monk, I will be free from suffering. But that might be a bit too far removed for somebody when they just start. So you want to find slightly less general basis for your act. So why am I going for this walk? Well, because I haven't moved my body for 3 days. I was sick, so I need to move. Okay, that's your motivation. And then is there anything wrong with that motivation? No. So I can go for a walk. Where do I go for a walk and so on? That's another thing you should be considering then. But if sometimes, because I'm kind of bored and restless in my kuti, so I am acting out of unwholesome basis of restlessness. So simply questioning yourself about the motive. Where is your action that you're about to do, or you happen doing if you caught yourself at a later stage, where is it rooted? And that's all you need to do in order to clarify the situation. You don't need to every time arrive at the answer that because you want to be free from suffering and you're a monk, although that's going to become implied.
Yeah,
because I want to avoid acting out of ill will. Why? Because from the other point of view, that's unwholesome and that prevents the fulfillment of my goal of being a monk and being free from suffering. But on a practical basis, why am I doing what I'm doing right now? Because of this. Simply maintaining the knowledge of why you're doing whatever you're doing, that's your mindfulness. That is basically the beginning and the ending of mindfulness.
But you have to, maintaining your knowledge, but you have to question. Yeah, you question your motives, your motives. That generates the knowledge.
Yeah. I'm just thinking, is there a danger that some people, when you ask yourself, why am I doing this?
There's a danger to psychologize.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah.
Or that's the danger you have to deal with.
You just come up with some sort of scientific, some kind of...
That's why I keep insisting you have to find motivation.
Yeah. So it's why, not as in what process what's going on that's making me do this. It's why am I doing, what's the meaning?
It's not about finding the answer necessarily. in as much as it's finding the motivation, which is then the answer.
Yeah.
Oh, why am I doing this? Because my parents never loved
Yeah,
me.
exactly. Yeah.
Like, well, that's not a motivation.
No.
That's you chose that. Why did you choose that to be your reason? Because other people have parents that don't love them and they don't do the same. Why did you make these choices? So that's what I mean. There is a danger of psychologizing, in as much as there is a danger, if you don't do it at all, of completely ignoring it and just following the mechanical, methodical practice of a robotic technique. But yeah, even if you start psychologizing, you ask yourself that. Oh, why am I now providing all these explanations for this?
So it's asking why, but also taking responsibility for.
Well, discerning
choices
the
that
responsibility
no-
that's
yeah,
there,
yeah, yeah,
that
yeah.
you can't have no choice but to have.
So, having the knowledge of the motivation behind your attentions.
Behind things you attend, yeah.
Knowledge of the roots of your attention.
Yeah. So that also then brings us back to all the talks we've been doing before about peripheral awareness and so on, means you can't attend on the same level the knowledge because of which you're attending all these particular things. So that's why you can't, or rather if you do start attending to that knowledge as if it is an object of your attention, means then you're motivated by something else. So you need to discern motivation without needing to attend to it at the expense of everything else. And that's why mindfulness will result in knowledge, because that's what knowledge is. Keeping things at the back of your mind that you already know without having to think about them all the time. That's exactly what knowledge is. When you don't know something, you have to think and attend and try to figure it out. Once you do, automatically recedes into the background and becomes the significance of your experience, whatever you want to call it. The point is, you don't have to be going around thinking that 2 and 2 is 4, 2 and 2 is 4, 2 and 2 is 4, because you already know. And you know what? You know how to add things up. You understood the principle of it. So you're not thinking about it. And that's the point here, to understand the principles of anicca, understand the principle of dukkha. Because it all revolves around the sense of self. Like having non-mindfulness of these things involves the self-view. Having mindfulness of these things uproots the self-view because it makes it redundant.
So you mean like, so someone who can drive doesn't have to think about driving? Whereas,
yeah, of course. Yeah.
Whereas
yeah.
someone who's learning to drive has to actually...
Well, and they can't
attention
think about
to-
the driving, see? Because they don't know how to drive. They can think about how to move the stick, how to twist the wheel,
Yeah, exactly,
how to
yeah.
press the pedal.
Yeah.
When they understand, as in develop more general understanding of these particular actions,
Yeah.
that's when they know how to drive. And then all they think about is driving. They don't think about every particular movement of the hand. But see, it's so, like when people act normally like that.
Yeah.
And then they get into practice, and then they try to undo this and become focused on every little thing you do at the expense of what you're doing. Because that's what you were led to believe, that's what meditation is. Moment-to-moment experience. Ignoring the bigger picture, which is already a moment experience. That's what I keep saying, like before, I remember, the one-pointedness is how people refer to samadhi. But it is two ways you can go about it. There can be one-pointedness in terms of you focusing on one point so hard that you forget about everything else.
Absorbed.
Yeah. Or you discern at one point that includes all these other things within it. So which one does it sound better? Focusing hard on one little instance, so I simply have no recognition of any other instances. Or finding the fundamental instance that already includes all of these instances. And given that the Buddha gave so many examples and similes of a gatekeeper, you don't go chase around every individual instance of a person in the city, you stand at the gate, you know they're inside, that's all you need to know. I have a knowledge that all these people are in. That's it. That's samadhi. That's the practice. But that's harder to do because you have to question yourself, and that will bring anxiety, that will bring doubt, and that's exactly why the 5 hindrances then become such a thing. It's manifested through proper practice. But if I just tell you, just focus on your nostrils, focus on touching with soles of your feet, as if walking means I want to touch things with my soles. No. Walking means I want to move, I want to walk. All these other particular actions you can look at will be seen correctly only if you don't forget the general context of your intention to walk. That persists for the duration of your act of walking.
And again, it's that principle of the whole and the parts. You can only understand what part is from the context of the whole. You can't understand the part,
You
it's not like the part, you understand the
parts.
parts and then you put them together to get the whole. It's the other way around. You have to start with the whole to understand what the part is.
And even if sometimes you don't know what the whole is, the fact that you're assembling parts to find the whole means you only have a recognition that there must be a whole to these parts.
Okay,
But what people hope is like there's absolutely zero knowledge of a whole, and somehow I'll magically arrive at the knowledge of a whole based on these random parts I'm doing. So that's why, yes, being instructed, hearing the Dhamma as in getting the sense of the context that must be developed, does give the direction to all those individual actions. But how individual those actions will become, well, that depends how wrong your views are. Because you can say, oh, well, becoming a monk and wearing robes and eating once a day, all of those are individual actions towards your practice of freedom from suffering. But they're not on the same level as individual actions of touching, moving, sitting, feeling, thinking, speaking, sleeping. Those are also individual actions, but you see how much more they are misguided. Because the more you commit to it, the further away from the context you drift. And exactly, that can happen to monks as well. When being a monk becomes about having my perfect robe, perfect stitch, I'm such a beautiful disciple, I always put Ajahn's cloth perfectly, and I walk so softly, I speak so softly. And I'm a layman still, mentally, basically. So that's what I mean. All of these are individual actions, but it's whether you know that you're supposed to look for the context behind them or not.
That's the thing. It's
So that's when you become like a career monk, when it's about appearance, it's about this, it's about serving and doing this, and not about understanding the context of your actions, the context of the suffering.
Easier to obsess over the...
It is. That's why Sila Bhatta Paramasa is the first fetter. People derogatorily translated as rites and rituals, because nobody's silly enough to worship rites and rituals as a vehicle to enlightenment. But it isn't. Sila Bhatta Paramasa means virtue and duty. So me doing the virtue, doing the duty without understanding the context of it means I'm fettered by things I'm doing. That's it. Now imagine you take that even further, and I start doing all these mindless meditation techniques and everything else. And literally you basically completely cement any access to the direction where the context of your actions are.
So your context, your motivation will govern your actions.
Yeah.
So if you protect
It always does.
that higher mind, that higher motivation, that big context with your life, you don't have to worry about much else.
Exactly.
So it's like
Absolutely.
that you have to learn how to drive before you can get there. So what is it? I want to develop kindness, loving kindness. So I must get used to what kind things are. Pick up the theme of kindness, and then make that
Develop the theme
as the thing that my shining light in my life is that context, that sign of kindness. That's what I concentrate on. That's what I compose my life in or around.
without needing to sort of go through like daily repetition of particular actions of expressing kindness to everyone, smiling and doing all these things. No, kindness means absence of ill will.
Because you will be naturally doing things.
Yeah. Because that's where they're rooted.
Yeah, but if that's the theme of the game is kindness, then whatever I come into contact with, I will come into contact with things because I'm eating, I'm going to the toilet, I'm speaking with people, someone getting sick.
But doesn't matter what things you come across and against, if a backdrop against those things is the theme that you invested effort in developing it, theme of kindness, no ill will can seep into these particular actions because they're at a lower level.
Yeah, but if you're
unclear about the theme of kindness, That's it. Lack of clarity will then give rise to what? Lust, aversion, delusion, ignorance. Always gives rise to these things.
A painful thing comes up, like an annoying thing.
Well, it will test your clarity of the theme of kindness.
Yeah, someone starts to insult me.
Yeah.
But that...
If you still recognize that, it doesn't matter how powerful somebody is trying to push through the gate, all I need to do is stay at the gate. I don't need to fight them where they are or chase them inside. I just need to stay at the gate. So you just need to stay at the level of the theme of kindness, and you will then, and again, that can only be developed if you keep doing it. If you keep practicing it, then you develop confidence in it.
But that's the thing, if someone, so if you protect that mind of kindness, which now you've been maintaining for a while, someone comes to insult you, you don't have to worry about what your response will be, because it will come from that place of where you are always situated.
If that mind is clear, if you've not lost sight of that mind of kindness.
And losing sight, just to add, means muddling the knowledge. It's not lose, because sometimes people will say lose sight or don't lose sight means I must think about it, I must attend it.
No.
Losing sight means being unclear about it. So just have to re-clarify.
Because it's always something that I can't quite attend to. It's always, It's always, it can only ever be this.
It's not on the level of your sight, which is on the level of your attention.
It's also like, it's different than having certain techniques, like on how to deal with people who insult you. If they call you a name, okay, now I'll say this.
If they say this, I'll say this.
Well, sorry friend, it seems that you need something. And, what are your wants?
Non-violent communication.
Yeah, and you have to do this technique.
I hear a lot of aggression in your voice.
So you have to do all these techniques.
It's trying to rebuild the context through emulating things that you would think be coming out of that context. Oh, a non-angry person would speak like this, but you don't know that because you're already angry.
Yeah.
So a non-angry person would speak how? Well, why don't I remove my anger, and then whichever way I speak will be a non-angry way of speaking.
Exactly. And others might be witness to you, and then start writing down all the things that you do when you respond.
Yeah.
He says this, he asks the person that.
And create a new technique.
Yeah, called non-violent.
Or,
exactly,
they might even disapprove you. They'll say, no, that's not how a non-angry person would speak.
Yeah.
Like there was happening in the suttas with the Arahant, who was fully enlightened but was upsetting people.
They'll say, I saw you got angry there, so you're obviously not enlightened.
Well, people just assumed that he was angry. They just assumed he was angry because he was speaking in such a harsh manner. Then they sent him to the Buddha called him, started talking to him, said, oh no, he's an Arahant. So that's what I mean, it's not like how you're speaking. And often they're right in the sutta, they're like, they're holy life companions in the holy life that are pleasing to listen, pleasing to sort of be with, they're so friendly, so kind, so generous, so helpful, with evil wishes, ignorant of the wrong view. Then they're the ones that are really hard to live with. They don't speak pleasantly, they're rough around the edges, but they're of the right view. Then they're the ones that are both. But the Buddha clearly says which one's more important. It's the view. So you can, if you can refine your behavior to not upset vast amount of people, great. But don't confuse that to be the practice. Don't confuse that will somehow regenerate the context that you have no knowledge of. How can that happen? I have no knowledge of the context of absence of ill will, yet I'm hoping to regenerate it through reading the non-violent communication books and just sort of going through the motion of softly spoken, tailored words.
So you just have to learn how to look in a different direction.
Yes. Yonis direction.
In a more general, in a more encompassing direction, and which is just inquiring into your motivations.
Yeah, that's the gateway. And that's why everything, as I said when we started, is converges on action.
Yeah.
Converges on action is basically rooted in motivation. So if it's a good action or bad action. So it's not about, I must stop doing, of course, you stop doing things that are against the precepts, but then people don't know where to draw a line, and then whatever, I must stop doing it. Well, that becomes your form of doing, abstaining from doing everything else. It's what I'm doing all the time, 24/7. And it's a very frustrating position to be in. So you realize you can't stop the doing. The only way to stop the doing is to understand the roots of your action. First you need to replace the bad doing with good doing, and then get to understand it. But just doing the good will not free you from the nature of action.
Yeah, doing the good. Practicing for example, like the non-violent communication technique. But it's all coming based on anger.
Yeah, of course.
You know,
of course. That's where your anger becomes implicit in your practice to be free from anger.
Sorry, I'm just, I know this isn't following on exactly what you just said, but from what we were saying before, if you are clear about your motivations, like fully clear, in which case there won't be any delusion in regard to the context that you're in, then in a sense you don't need to worry about actions anymore. There's no kind of, you don't need to sort of do anything.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Becomes effortless because
it's
absence of action.
Yeah, no, that's the absence of action.
And that's how you also go beyond doubt as well. If you're unclear about the motivation of your actions, you will be doubting it.
Yeah,
if somebody starts questioning it, you'll start doubting it yourself. But it doesn't matter how much you doubt the content, you won't be affected by the doubt towards the content if you're not doubtful in regard to the motivation that made you perform that content in the first place. So you will not be able to doubt it. Oh, maybe I could have done like this or this, but it doesn't matter, I know why I've done it. It's when people are unclear about that, that's when you just doubt the steamroll over you.
But it's also the end of action.
If fully developed, yes.
That's what I mean, yeah.
In case you're not because it's just intentions giving rise to all these other intentional actions, and that's it.
And so there's nothing
there
that
is
needs
no
to be
choice based on ignoring the context that's being made towards those actions, which is what Putujan's situation is.
You know, because the Putujan is always making individual choices at various particular levels of particularity.
Well,
whereas if it's all guarded right at the top,
right. Well,
then
he's making choices because
it's fine.
He's not aware that the choices can be made without needing him to be there making them. So he's ignoring the general, or rather he's unaware, has no clarity in regard to general context.
Yeah.
That means he immediately implies then that he's the sole criteria for making decisions.
Yeah.
Failing to see that those decisions can be made only because they were given as simultaneously arisen options for you to attend and then choose on account of. But you ignore that, then what else is there making choices? Oh, it's only me. Hence I am. Hence I must be. So then choices that he makes are choices rooted in his self-view. But if you recognize that even I am making this choice, you realize because in the general context that provided you with these options, you realize it's not rooted in you. The roots of your choice are not rooted in you, which then means the actions that were rooted in your choice cannot be rooted in you either.
So a Putujan's context is
me.
But we can easily see that when you ask yourself what's the context, you always find it as like, it's kind of not me. It's like, the context is always prior to my own particular choices that I make. Those choices.
Well, that would be true only in case of an arahant. But if you were to start from a neutral position, that answer is true. But Putujan is not in a neutral position. So in order for him to arrive at that the choice is already there, the only way to correctly arrive at it is to first accept the choice is first on him. And then this choice that's on me is then on what? Hence that acceptance of responsibility.
But can't you see so I'm responsible for these particular choices, but those choices are always made within a context that's always already given.
Sure. So you ask yourself the next question.
Yeah.
This seems to be clear to me, I seem to have understood it, am I completely free from suffering? If the answer is no, means you haven't fully understood it, there is still appropriation of action, means there is still absence of arahantship. So I'm not denying that there are different degrees of understanding this, but you shouldn't stop short until you're completely beyond it.
So since we're back onto sort of like where the how this is done on a practical level, say that, see, like saying where your motivation is when it comes to an action, you have to have a degree of awareness of wholesome and unwholesome to say this is right, this is.
Yeah, sure. But that, see, everybody has a degree of that awareness. Now you can then refine it even further. Everybody knows what's bad to do with your body: to kill, to steal, to cheat, to lie, and so on. So everybody knows that. Certainly everyone who is practicing the Dhamma. So then, sure, without compromising on that principle, you can start refining it further.
But doesn't the Buddha say, Samaditi Sutta, only the Arya Savaka knows the wholesome and knows the
No, he understands the root of it, sure.
Yeah,
but it doesn't mean the Putujan has no knowledge of what's virtuous.
So he has some sense of something being right, something wrong, but he hasn't actually
exactly,
got the
virtue.
proper
He has a
criteria.
sense of virtue.
The point I was getting at is that, like, even for the sense of virtue, like, even if you say you have doubts about sense of virtue to a certain degree of some aspect of it or another, and like, in order to develop that, you sort of start with, not sure what the exact translation is, hiriotapa.
Well, that usually translates sense of shame and fear of wrongdoing.
Yeah. So fear of wrongdoing and sense of shame already implies a degree of action, isn't it? Like
what do you mean?
Like, see, like, it implies virtue, as in, like, a sense of virtue, as in,
Well, it implies fear of unwholesome.
Yeah. But the practicality of it is that, the fear of wrongdoing, it sort of like, you have a certain awareness of where your action is rooted. Like,
What action?
like any action, like.
Well, it's a context for your actions. It's a context for abstaining from wrong actions. Developing fear of wrongdoing means in developing context of not acting unwholesomely, because you have fear of it. So out of the fear of wrongdoing, then your actions won't be as unwholesome.
Yeah.
So it's a context for your actions and for absence of particular other unwholesome actions. Otherwise you wouldn't be abstaining from unwholesome actions if you don't have fear of wrongdoing. You would just be doing it. Why are you not doing it then? Why are you practicing restraint? Because you develop fear of non-restraint. Because you recognize that to be the basis for the right practice. So then, like, why do I want to practice? Oh, well, because I want to be free from suffering and so on. So yeah, that's why it's useful. Not like go around neurotically and fear everything. What have I done? Was this wholesome? Was this unwholesome? No, it's recognizing that things rooted in lust, aversion, distraction are unwholesome. And you value absence of those unwholesome things so much that you fear the possibility of their presence. And if you're afraid of their presence, it will be impossible for you to act towards them. If you lose the fear of their possibility, then yeah, you start getting closer and you start acting towards it.
And it will refine your awareness of your actions as well.
Well, exactly. It will basically refine your abstinence from unwholesome actions. And then abstinence of unwholesome actions means abstinence from perpetuation of unwholesome principles, of craving, lust, and so on. And now that you're not perpetuating them, they start fading. And once they sort of thin out, you can see through them much better. But that's another thing, like, if there's something, say there's like a mad rabid dog on the other side of the gate, and now you know the risks, the implications of that kind of animal. You fear it, you wouldn't go near it. You make sure the gate is boarded, and that's it. You've done your bit, and you feel safe where you are. and you have a fear of that which is on the other side in case you get there. So you make sure you don't get there. But now imagine you don't have that context of that fearful animal. Oh, I'm quite curious about this dog. Let me go and see. And then you make all these actions that result exposing you to that thing, which you could have prevented if you develop fear properly in regard to a proper thing. So that's why, like, the Buddha would encourage monks to sort of contemplate sensuality, how it provides little satisfaction, much greater danger. Because if a presence of sensual object is seen implicitly dangerous, you won't have to, oh, now I have to pull my mind back from it. No, your mind already won't be there because it's dangerous. Lacking the perceptions of danger, the mind will start entertaining it.
But also that sense of shame, fear, wrongdoing, they kind of signals that you're going in the direction.
They go very far.
Which is going against what you are trying to maintain.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to maintain a mind of loving kindness, and now I'm going to go and beat someone up.
Exactly.
I feel uneasy. I feel shameful as the signal going off. That you're going against that.
That signal will be more powerful when there is a greater discrepancy that you were about to create with your action.
The closer you get, closer you get.
So somebody who's been practicing sense restraint, that's how you also get to increase hiriyanotapa. You start valuing absence of sensuality more, and the more you do it, the more you value it. So now the prospect of doing it requires even greater discrepancy of your action to reach that further away, and which means then that the alarm will be much higher. As if somebody who just yesterday decided to give it up, tomorrow he might feel a bit bad, but he doesn't feel the full weight of the danger of giving back into those things. It's like a buffer zone. Alarm, 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 alarm. And the more you practice, the bigger it is, which means the less likely is that you're going to cross it without becoming aware of what you're about to do.
As they're called the guardians, isn't it?
Guardians. The guardians of the world. Yeah.
It's like, but you can, you become more sensitive to, you feel shame in taking sugar.
Sure. Seeing the danger in the slightest fault, as the suttas would say.
That's what I mean.
Doesn't mean you become neurotic. Sometimes it might happen as a side effect, but you can grow out of that. But it means actually maintaining that context and see, even an insignificant thing, such as taking extra sugar, that's offered. You're not breaking any rules. But why? Because I just have pure craving, desire for sweetness, sweet taste. No physical purpose, no physical necessity or benefit, nutritional benefit. I simply want this taste. And if you use that as a criteria to not act, then you would be ashamed when you're about to act. So that's what it means, like seeing the danger in the slightest fault. Not like, oh well, look, see, this rule means this, and you folding a sitting cloth, that's an offense, that's a fault. No, it means recognizing where the faults are, when things are rooted in greed, aversion, delusion. Even if on a paper, the Vinaya says, yes, you can have all the sugar you want because it's offered. You will still feel ashamed because you don't need it, and yet you take it for pure sensual satisfaction. That's it. That's why from that attitude, that point of view, there are no loopholes in Vinaya. Because there are no loopholes to craving. But if people just follow the letter of the rule, then there are millions of loopholes. Oh, well, see, the Buddha didn't specify this, means I can do it. Whether you can do it or not should not be rooted in whether it was written or said by the Buddha. Should be, is it rooted in my greed, aversion, delusion?
Then you shouldn't be doing it. New rule. You
just make that rule.
Yeah.
And that's, well, again, what we said there is a sutta. So I can't keep all these 100-something rules, the monk comes to. But it says, can you just keep 3 then? Don't do anything unwholesome by body, by speech, by mind.
That's not necessarily sort of a Vinaya issue, is it? It's just more...
Exactly. So if you have no context whatsoever, you need this formulated Vinaya to create that absolute outer edges of the boundary. By you taking that to be the goal in itself, that's why you never actually get to understand where those actions are rooted and where the problem is. So it's basically just like rounding up the symptoms.
It's like you can't spend your whole life being extremely strict and keeping Vinaya, but not be paying any attention to whether what I'm doing is wholesome or unwholesome. I mean, so
And that's
the
how you're
Vinaya-
affected by your own Vinaya.
But so it
Sila
can
Paramas.
still protect you to an extent.
It's still better than being unrestrained,
Yeah,
but
but still, you need to make that
Yeah,
step.
it's like training wheels.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
boundary
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
urges.
But then
No, that's what I mean,
why
like,
you can go beyond
being
sila
acting
bhakti.
unwholesomely is not sila, your virtue and sense restraint does not prevent the root of unwholesome. It just prevents the expression of it. So it's like you got sick, you caught some bacteria, that now you have, I don't know, fever as a result of it and all these other symptoms. And now on account of those symptoms, you keep aggravating your situation further. You go and jump in a cold pool to cool down your fever, which actually makes your bacteria even worse. But you don't know that, you just deal what you see in front of you. So the first thing you have to do is stop jumping in the cold pool that will aggravate your fever, that will help your fever but aggravate the cause of the fever. So you start practicing restraint. Control the symptoms, but now if you think that all you have to do is abstain from going out into the cold water because it won't aggravate the fever, and you think that would be enough to then uproot the root cause of the fever as well, that's not going to happen. So Vinaya and Sila is that outer edges, so basically, okay, don't aggravate the aggravated symptoms anymore, stop here. But if you think that stopping there will also then clear you of the symptoms, that won't happen. Only uprooting the cause will then remove the symptoms. Same like I don't know why I'm complicating with a different simile of the itch, the wounds on your skin that the Buddha gave. First thing you have to stop scratching. Scratching will not uproot the bacterial infection. Cessation of scratching will not uproot the bacterial infection, but it will certainly stop spreading it. And then you can apply medicine for the underlying cause of that which made you itch in the first place. And that's basically the Vinaya. Stops you from making things worse. But taking that to be a practice for uprooting it, well, that's extremely wrong view. It's a first fetter, Sila Bhakti Paramas. And unless you abandon it, you won't get the right view. Let alone free yourself from lust and aversion later on.
Say if you're confused about where my action is, you can always know in regards to the virtue, as in, I'm not doing this.
Exactly, so you can be confused in terms of, on a more particular level, well, is this or is this? But okay, overall, is this wholesome or unwholesome? If it's not unwholesome, then okay, wait and you might get clarity in regard like that. Am I taking, there's nothing wrong, I'm not stealing this sugar. But am I taking it because I really need it, because I really didn't have enough calories, or I'm taking it purely for pleasure's sake? Well, as the Buddha said, if you're unsure, then don't do it. As a rule of thumb. I don't know if what I'm about to do, I know it's not unwholesome to the level of breaking rules and so on, but on a more personal level, on a more immediate level, I'm not sure whether it's desire or without desire, then don't do it. If there is a disagreeable experience in regard to it, means desire was involved. If you generally then don't care, means there was no desire involved. Because you wouldn't be affected by saying no to things unless you had a desirous mind towards them. So if you're doubting, it's most likely rooted in desire. Hence doubt is an unwholesome thing. Not in a sense, I must stop doubting, I must stop thinking. No, I must clarify my mind to go beyond this doubt. So the doubt cannot enter it. You can't control the doubt. Doubt is another symptom that's rooted in lack of clarity. And when I say clarity, means lack of clarity, I mean a lack of understanding, not lack of information. Because sometimes you don't know enough, so you read the rules and so on, but sometimes people, that's all they do. Just need to keep rereading and be told the same thing on and on and on and on to help them deal with the doubt. That's not dealing with the doubt, that's just feeding it further. You want external authority to remove the doubt for you, because you're not seeing for yourself where your actions are rooted. So that's why practically you can check that general context, what you're about to do. Is it clearly unwholesome? Then it's not negotiable. Oh, I want to go for a walk. Why? Is it because I'm restless or because I need some exercise? If you're unclear, well then perhaps wait. Decide, no, I won't go for a walk. Do I feel affected now emotionally if I have to stay here? No. Okay, so then I probably wasn't trying to resist any restlessness. Then you can go for a walk. And that's the only method you can really do. Just keep questioning whatever you're about to do. Oh, is this right or wrong or something like that? No, just where is it rooted? Right or wrong has been sort of dealt with on the level of Vinaya. But now it's on a practical level, where is it rooted? Because the same thing externally can sometimes be wholesome, sometimes unwholesome, depending on whether it's rooted in your desire or not.
So it's what we were starting with, is just like asking,
That's about the same, yeah?
why am I doing this? What's my motivation? And not expecting to have the answer immediately.
Exactly. Discerning it, what's already there, enduring. If I don't, it's because of this. Okay, fine, but why am I doing it right now? Where? What is it that motivates me to go and want to go for a walk? I have no particular reason. Okay, that's an answer that presented itself. So I have no particular reason. So that non-particular reason, is it possible that it's rooted maybe in me feeling uncomfortable in the kuti on my own? Start investigating, of course. Is it going to be unwholesome? I'm not clear. Okay, that is the starting point. Is this lack of clarity rooted in unwholesome? Then when you realize that you really don't mind, even if somebody says, no, you can't go for a walk. If you decide not to go for a walk and you're not going to be affected if you have to stay in the kuti, then it's okay, well maybe it wasn't rooted in that then. Or rather, you know it wasn't rooted in that. So then you don't need to find, I must find where exactly it's rooted. No, all you need to find is that it's not rooted in unwholesome. Everything else will be fine. And that's how you will also avoid psychologizing. Because psychologizing will be focusing on providing the content, the reason. You don't need the reason. You just want to make sure that the absence of these reasons are not caused by greed, aversion, delusion. That's it.
Yeah, that's where we began, was interrogation. Importance of interrogation.
Yeah. You can, like this, of course, it's basically, well, we recorded it, so you get like a reference collected, so people can listen, including ourselves. You listen to it and, okay, yeah, it reminds you how to do it. But it's a practice you should be doing to yourself all the time. So now when you go, or everyone goes to their own kuti on their own in the afternoon, and sort of you're about to do something, why is this wholesome? No, just, okay, I'm about to do this. Why? Why am I doing that?
Yeah, are there any red flags coming up? Shame? Do I feel shameful about doing this? Okay.
So it's basically just checking peripherally if there are red flags, not necessarily trying to interfere or control what you're about to do. So again, say you go back to kuti now, you finish eating and then I want to go for a walk. There's no problem with that. But doesn't mean you should do it immediately by default. No, you ask yourself, why? Where is this action rooted? I'm not looking for faults, I'm just looking for clarity. So it's rooted in the fact that I'm getting quite sleepy and I don't want to sleep. Going out in the cold air, in the wind, walking a bit, will certainly wake me up, or at least has a greater chance of waking me up than if I don't do it. Then you do it. There's nothing unwholesome about it. But if it's purely unwholesome reason, because I heard there are people on the road down there, I heard voices and I just want to see who there was, and maybe talk to people. And then that becomes clearly, that's why you want to do it. You realize that's what you're leaning to, that's what you're hoping for. And if you're unsure, is it or not? What if I were to go walking in the opposite direction when I know there is nobody? Will I feel dejected on account of it? Then you realize, yes, because I had the desire basically to go down to talk to people on the pretext of having a healthy walk. And it's nothing like, you just need to ask yourself and then look and wait for the answer. It's there. Because otherwise you wouldn't have had that thought of going for a walk where the people are if it wasn't rooted in that motivation. So nobody can say, that's beyond me. This practice is beyond me. If it truly beyond you means you're incapable of acting and intending, and nobody's incapable of that, which means everybody's capable of being aware of the motivation of those acts. And if it's unwholesome, don't do it. If it's wholesome, do it. That's all you have to do. And that's what we have said millions of times. That which you know it's unskillful, abandon it. That which you know is skillful, cultivate it. And what is skillful, unskillful? It's whether it's rooted in greed, aversion, delusion in your mind or not. That's it.
Interrogation.
Oh, I must do this, and then I practice. No, that is your practice. Uprooting uprooting the maintenance of unskillful states of mind that are maintained through the unskillful actions. Because you can't have unskillful action being performed without the unskillful intention in the mind persisting with it. But you can certainly uproot the unskillful intention in your mind by abstaining from performing unskillful actions with your body and your speech.